Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good. We were talking before recording that you recently got me into the game Dead by Daylight.
Yep.
And it is very quickly taking over my life. So if it ever sounds like I didn't put much effort into recording, into editing an episode, it's probably because I was trying to just get it over with so I can get back to playing Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, Gabe's I'm glad you enjoyed it so much because I didn't get really into it when I first got it. I just have a group of friends that played a lot, and so they convinced me to pick it up. And I think it was around the same time that you were playing the Friday the 13th game.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, it's kind of like that, and it's like I'm just trying to get into it, and it took me a while to get into, and I only recently started playing it more often.
Sure.
And I noticed that you had the game, you just hadn't played it much.
Yeah, I got it on a Humble Bundle, I think.
Right, and I was like, it seems right up Gabe's alley.
Yeah,
so it's like, I was like, I'm playing it more often. Maybe you should play it, and I'm gonna, now that we got Discord voice chat working for you.
Oh yeah.
I'll get you into the Discord channel that we play on. So
yeah, I was really big into Friday the 13th. I'm pretty sure I even mentioned it on the show back when I started playing it. And the two are, in concept, they're similar. I feel like in execution they are quite different games.
They are. That's for sure.
There's a lot of stuff that does not translate between the two. They are so different once you actually really try to play them. Because when I was playing Friday the 13th, all of the discourse would be like, oh, this is the good version. Dead by Daylight's the bad version. But now playing Dead by Daylight, no, they're totally different games.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a lot of fun though. I am having a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah.
I think would be really fun if there was a version of Dead by Daylight that was fantasy themed.
Sure.
So I guess for anybody, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but for anybody who is not familiar with it, it is an asymmetrical multiplayer horror game.
Yeah.
The idea is that one player is the killer, which they choose from an assortment of various, generic horror villains, but there's also some of them are licensed, like Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street is there.
Yep.
Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So there are a lot of licensed ones in there too. And so one player is the killer. Everybody else is a quote unquote survivor. Survivors can't directly fight back. That's one big difference between this and Friday the 13th. And Friday the 13th, everyone's attacking Jason. You get so many weapons. You could gang up on Jason. Jason can't do nothing.
Right.
But in this, you can't fight back. Your only goal is to get away. Yeah. And then there are a lot of things you can use to get away from the killer. And so I'm thinking, what if there was a game where one player was like a beholder or something, or a dragon, or a doppelganger or something, in which case you look like one of the players, and then the other players are adventurers, and maybe they can fight back, maybe they can't, but their goal is to, maybe they have a bag full of stuff they can use in place of the perks that you get in Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
They have gear that lets them momentarily get a speed boost to run away, or they can turn invisible for a moment.
There's that game Evolved, which is it's a asynchronous online game where where one player is a monster. Okay. And that monster has to go around and consuming other monster, smaller animals and stuff like that. And once they get enough points, they can evolve to the next stage, and they can they level up and put points and skills and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I think the 4 other players are hunters, and they each have a different class and stuff like that. So there are plenty of there's a few asymmetrical games like that, but a more D&D theme to it. Yeah. More traditional fantasy theme to it would be pretty cool. There's also one Sketchy plays it. It's called Depth, I think.
Okay.
Where it's I think I'm understanding this right, where there's either a team maybe it's not fully asymmetrical, but it's like divers versus sharks, basically.
Oh, okay.
And like the divers are like collecting treasure or something, and like you have like guns and stuff to fight off sharks, but like there's different types of sharks that can like, some of them are faster, some of them are powerful, something like that. I'm not 100% sure how it works. I've watched her play it on stream plenty of times, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I think I picked it up on a sale once, but I haven't actually booted it up yet.
Okay.
But like there are some interesting like asymmetrical games, and like I feel like a classic fantasy themed one would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, like especially if it was licensed by Wizards of the Coast. I would be all over that.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
And I don't say that word often.
All right. Well, so moving away from talking about video games, I guess last week we had our good friend Jay on. Yeah. Jason Enright. We had him as a guest.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And yeah, it was a ton of fun having him on. Hopefully our listeners enjoyed listening to him too. Sounds like he had a lot of fun being on the show. It was great. It was great to have him on here. So yeah. So thank you, Jay, for coming on the show. I guess anything else you got going on, or you want to get into this episode?
Yeah, let's get going.
Okay.
Gabe.
Yes.
I want you to imagine that you're in a dark and spooky cave.
Ooh. I mean, my house is kind of a dark and spooky cave.
I mean, you don't get the lights on or anything. So it's not super hard to imagine.
Sure.
So you're crawling quietly down a dark corridor in the cave.
Okay.
Is it a corridor if it's a cave?
Sure.
Is a corridor inherently artificial? Like
I guess structured? I don't know. I think a corridor is the more general term. Mm-hmm. Hallway I think is like a manufactured.
Sure. Well, you're going down a tunnel. In the cave, and there's little bits of light creaking in from above, here and there, so it's not super easy to see. But you see ahead of you, you see where it kind of opens up.
Oh, okay.
To a larger.
Maybe the exit's up here.
Yeah, might be. So you creep along, and you suddenly hear snoring.
That wasn't me, was it?
And as you creep closer and closer to the opening, there's a gentle breeze that keeps going in and out.
This is I hope a giant left a set of bellows in here by mistake. And that they won't be coming back to get them.
Right.
So I'm going to try to keep going and see if I can figure out what's causing this.
So as you get closer to the opening, you notice that there's like a bit of a drop off.
Oh yeah.
And so like and down at the bottom in the center of the big opening, you see a dragon. Mm-hmm. And around this dragon's neck is a chain, is like a collar and chain.
Oh.
So go ahead and make a perception check.
Okay. 13.
So you notice on your left you see a like a ballista turret.
Oh, okay.
And then on your right you see a lever that seems to be tied to a some sort of mechanism that's connected to the chain.
Oh, okay.
So
well, I could probably shoot the dragon, but that lever is piquing my curiosity. I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to go over to the lever and I'm going to pull it just a little bit, see what happens.
So you pull the lever and several gears start clanking and turning.
Oh no. Okay. And I shouldn't have done this. Abort.
And then after a few moments of like some loud noises, you notice that the dragon's starting to stir and wake up. And as it's waking up, it notices you and starts crawling towards you. But after a few moments, just as it's getting close to you, the chain goes limp and falls from the mechanism.
I shouldn't have done that.
And the dragon stops, sees that the chain that he has been shackled to is loose.
Yeah.
He looks at you, he nods, and he flies away.
Cool. I'll give him a thumbs up. But here's the real question, though: is there treasure?
Well, as he flies away, and he kind of claws his way out the top of the cavern, he breaks a few rocks loose, and some moonlight shines down into another part of the cave, and you notice that there is a big pile of treasure he's left behind.
Awesome.
So as your reward for freeing the dragon, you have earned yourself a dragon's hoard.
Heck yeah. All right, so we have an item for the Dragon's Hoard today, and it was brought by, who's this weirdo? His name is Jeff?
Yeah, he's a weird guy.
Yeah. Are you eating the Dragon's Hoard item, Jeff?
Yeah, today's Dragon's Hoard item is a ginger snap.
Yeah, I don't like ginger snaps.
So today's magic item is one that I made. It's based off of something from a King's Quest game. I just call it the Gauntlet.
Okay.
I've given it artifact level because I think it has the potential of being really, really, really powerful.
Sure.
So legend has it that it is the right of any mortal to challenge the Lord of the Dead in order to save the life of another already passed. The knowledge of how to do this was lost centuries ago, but this gauntlet holds the key. This cold black steel gauntlet feels warm and oddly light in the hand, but cold and heavy on the mind of those who wear it. The cuff of the gauntlet bears an inscription, and then I put in a language of the DM's choice.
Sure.
Because I don't know what your setting's like. And it reads, "Flesh may pass the portal and seek its master death. Flesh may pass where death has trod and challenge like Scheherazade, he who reigns beneath the sod to spare a mortal's breath." And that's straight from the game anyway.
Cool.
So once attuned, the wearer is given access to a great and terrible power over death itself. With a touch, the gauntlet can be used to cast several spells without the need of components.
Sure.
And I've given it a list of spells here of varying power and stuff like that. This is all subject to change and stuff.
Sure.
Use it how you will. So it gives them spare the dying at will, which allows you to stabilize somebody. So you touch them and they're stabilized.
Yeah.
Speak with dead once per day. So if you come across a corpse or something like that, you can communicate with their spirit.
Or if you didn't get to the person in time and they died, then you can be like, but wait, where'd you leave the keys to your vacation home? We need somewhere to stay for the weekend.
Did you leave the oven on?
Yes.
I can go to your house and turn it off. I also gave it gentle repose, but specifically one that with a 1 hour duration.
Oh, okay.
The idea being that its next ability gives you is a revivify.
Oh.
So the idea is that you can gentle repose somebody for an hour, and then in that time you can still use revivify.
Sure.
Because revivify, I think you have to use the next round basically.
Yeah, it's like within a minute, I think.
Yeah. So this one gives you a little bit more time to do that.
Yeah.
And the reason why you'd want to do that, because this specific version of Revivify, it comes at a great cost. Now, I wrote this before I realized exactly how exhaustion works.
Okay.
So, when you use Revivify in this way, both the target and the caster immediately suffer 4 levels of exhaustion and cannot cast any spells until a long rest is taken.
Oh, goodness.
Now, you pointed out not too long ago, not a few episodes ago, that exhaustion, you can only heal back one at a time.
Yeah. 1 per long rest. Yeah.
Right. So I'm not exactly sure how I feel about that in the terms of this item.
Yeah.
Maybe this one is you count as having 4 levels of exhaustion, but after a long rest, they're all gone. Something like that.
Yeah. Maybe.
But maybe because it is a fairly powerful item, that's not the worst thing. It's more like in the boss battle or something of an adventure,
sure,
one of your players goes down, you're able to bring them back, but at this great cost. But because it's the end of the adventure, you could say oh, we're going to have a week's worth of downtime anyway. We can rest up or something like that. But it basically just makes it so you have this item that can bring people back to the dead fairly easily, but you're going to want to make sure that you're in a good position to do it. And then there's also I've also put some other things in here, basically it's a true resurrection, but you basically give up the gauntlet to use a true resurrection. Oh. And I've written a little thing here, but it's mostly just you go on an adventure to challenge death, so that you can bring somebody back. So the idea is in whatever setting that you're running this in. If there it's a different plane or something, maybe this gauntlet would give you the ability to travel to this plane of death and challenge whoever the Lord of Death is, or whoever the deity of death or whoever is, and they might put up a challenge, or like say like you need to fight this monster or solve this riddle or this puzzle or something like that, or just do like a fetch quest or something like that.
Yeah.
Some sort of challenge that you can pose to the players that if they're trying to bring somebody back from the dead. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make this item is because I like the idea of a setting where like death is a big deal.
Yeah.
So like I would want to have this in like an adventure in a campaign where players didn't have access to like raise dead and stuff like that.
Sure.
At a normal, in a normal way. So like maybe like up front you'd say like, okay, you don't have, no characters have access to raise dead or revivify or so on. There will be powerful artifacts and or like, places you can go to achieve those things, but it's something you got to really work for.
Yeah.
So this would be like an artifact that would give them that ability, but it comes at a cost.
Sure.
And then if they want to, do a true resurrection thing, then it's even more so. You have to actually go out and do like a quest or something like that. So
okay.
I don't know. I was just trying to think of a way to put, to make death more meaningful, and then but also let the players have those abilities, but just put it into a magic item or something.
Okay. I almost think it might even be, if that's kind of what the campaign is supposed to be about, I wonder if maybe you might even start the campaign off by giving them this item. Mm-hmm. And then they have access to those, but they all have costs. Especially like Revivify, you can do it, but you've got to then deal with the 4 levels of exhaustion or whatever. And then you could even have there be, maybe if they haven't used up, if nobody has died and they've needed to use up the true resurrection thing, have that be a plot point halfway through the campaign that then they have to go on a quest to trade the gauntlet for a true res.
Right. So they find out about somebody who was murdered or somebody that's really important to the plot. It's like, oh, we can't actually like save the world because this person's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we can go and see if we can get them, bring them back to life.
Yeah. So I think that sounds really cool. I'm thinking up ideas about like how to build a campaign around that.
Right. So yeah, like just this magical one-of-a-kind artifact that is like maybe one of the only ways of bringing somebody back.
Sure.
That basing a campaign around that idea, I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool. So good job coming up with that item.
Thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard today. Thank you, Jeff, for bringing that in.
I tried.
If anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard, or if they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com, or they can join us on our Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
Correct. Yeah. We've had some great discussion on the Discord, and it's great to have everybody on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, come on over and talk with some like-minded people that just want to talk about D&D and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a good fun community if you're just bored, or if you got a cool idea, or if you want to, if you need some helpful tips, everybody's willing to chat about, D&D and what have you.
Yeah. So come join us. It's open to everybody. Mm-hmm. And then I want to tell everybody that our show is brought to you by our wonderful patrons. We have a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. On there, you can pledge a certain amount of money per month to help out the creator of your choice and get some cool stuff in return. If you pledge for us, we've got some outtakes for the lowest tier. We got a monthly bonus podcast called InterPatronConflict, where we talk about various topics every month. We've also got a monthly Roll20 game for the top tier that will hopefully be going on, I think, the day before this episode goes out. I think it just will have happened.
Okay.
So if you're hearing this now, it's too late to join us. But next month we'll be doing it. We probably won't finish the thing that I had planned.
Oh, sure.
So we will probably be continuing that next month. So next month, if you are interested in joining, you can of course do that. So anyway, head over to patreon.com/interpartyconflict. Check out the rewards and see if anything appeals to you. You can help out the podcast and get some cool stuff in return. And then just one more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. They make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. And D&D Character Lab I believe D&D Character Lab is ending.
Oh.
In fact, I think they're ending like a couple days after this episode goes out.
Oh.
So,
oh, no. I mean,
hey, if I totally understand, I understand that. I would rather they know it's coming and then announce it ahead of time and then end it instead of just, they just stopped making episodes.
They just disappeared.
We've talked about this in the past. Yeah. Being a creator of a podcast, I understand how sometimes you just don't have time for it.
Right.
So if they are in fact ending, and if it was a conscious decision and they were leading up to this, I totally understand that. Mm-hmm. That being said, it's been great having them on the network, and it's going to be a shame to lose them.
Yeah, it's a great show.
And I mean, hey, their episodes will still be there. And I imagine you'll be able to go back and listen to them whenever.
Mm-hmm. But it's still a ton of great content.
Yeah, it's so much content. So yeah, they're still a great podcast regardless of what happens. Mm-hmm. So check them out. D&D Character Lab. They make characters every week and then pit them against each other and debate whose is better. It's such a cool concept.
Yeah, and even after they're gone, you can always go back and binge listen.
Absolutely.
That's how I like to that's usually how I like to consume stuff is binge watching. I'll wait a little while for some of it to build up, and then I'll watch 3 or 4 episodes at a time.
Sure. And then one more podcast on the network. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They are an actual play podcast. They started a new arc a couple months ago, and it's been great so far. So check them out. All those podcasts, they're some great stuff. You want to go ahead and get into some questions, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Our first question comes from Stiltskin Kupo 84 on Discord. How do you think a typical fantasy RPG campaign would go if the PC's ages were capped at 12 years old or a non-human equivalent?
Yeah, so if you're playing in an RPG campaign where everyone was explicitly children or adolescents.
Right.
Like there were no adults in the group. If it's humans, they're 12 years old. If there's dwarves, they're, 50 or whatever the heck
something
dwarves
like that,
do. What sort of stuff might happen in such a campaign? One thing I will say, it's not exactly what this is asking.
Right.
But we got the title for this podcast, InterPartyConflict, from a long time ago. I was in a bookstore with Jay, who was on our show last week.
Mm-hmm.
A billion swords of justice.
And we were talking with this one employee there because we were looking to start a new D&D campaign, and he overheard us talking, and he was like, hey, I'm interested in playing D&D. And he told us about there was a game that he played. It was GURPS. It was not D&D, but it was GURPS, which is a generic universal role-playing system. You can use it for anything. He said that he was in a game where the PCs were toddlers in a daycare, and their goal was to escape the building.
Sure.
And to this day, I think that is one of the greatest concepts I've ever heard. I've never tried that. I've never played a game like that.
Right.
But I would love to play a game like that if someone else had a good grasp on how they wanted to make that happen.
Yeah. It makes me think of Rugrats or something.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah.
like Tommy Pickles' toy screwdriver that he used to flick the little latch on their little playpen thing.
Yeah.
Later, you realize that apparently that may or may not have been a Doctor Who reference, that he had a screwdriver.
Oh, maybe.
Because there were definitely other little small references to Doctor Who. Sure. I don't know.
If you are going to run a game where everybody is explicitly children or adolescents, I think that you're probably doing it because you want the players to feel either powerless or vulnerable or both.
Sure.
I think generally speaking, that's what you're going for.
Yeah. Because, it's definitely if statistics wise, if your character stats are all the same, but it's just the ages are different.
Yeah.
You can still make it it is a way to make it more challenging because in role playing situations,
sure.
Your characters are kids. Get out of here, kid.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to you got to get a little bit you have to find ways around certain things because if you're just a group of kids and you're trying to stop a beholder or something,
sure.
From destroying the city from within or whatever. I don't know. It's in any movie or something where the group of kids know that the bad guy's doing the bad guy thing, but they can't convince anybody that that's a bad guy because they're just a group of kids, and it's no, that's just the new neighbor. He's just the new neighbor. You kids are just crazy. Get out of here.
Now, Jeff, you ran a game kind of like this. I don't know why I didn't think of this when we were picking out the questions for today, but you kind of did.
Well, sort of. Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. So for last Halloween, for the Roll20 game, I had this little adventure I cooked up that was you started out and there was like some zombies.
Yeah, so we were just adventurers fighting some zombies.
And you took down a couple of the zombies, and then the zombies started crying.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of like it was revealed that it was just like in your imagination that it was zombies was actually kids in trick-or-treater costumes and stuff like that. They were trying to scare you.
So like we were just doing make-believe, acting like we were adventurers, and then I actually hurt one of the kids that had quote-unquote been attacking us.
So because when you're a kid and you're playing pretend and like things are getting all you're getting really into it, and then like a kid gets hurt and starts crying, and then like the veil of pretend just washes away because you're like, oh no, I'm in trouble. Like you're like, shoot, my dad's gonna kill me. Like so like nothing makes fun go away faster than when the small kid hurts his knee or something like that and starts crying. You're like, dang it. Oh, now we can't have fun anymore because Timmy got hurt or whatever.
Right. But then
like, so like you end up finding out that you're just a bunch of kids, and then you go and run to your hideout. And then like I had like basically a curse put on the players that turned us into
the characters that we were dressed as for Halloween.
Right. That's what it was. Yeah. So like I had everybody pick a monstrous race.
Yeah.
So like or I wouldn't say monstrous race,
just
but
a non-human race.
Yeah, like so a non-core like a Kenku.
So I was a Kenku.
I think
Justin was a lizard folk, I think, and he like basically became Charizard.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, he was like a lizard folk, like sorcerer or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, and then I think Steve was a Yonti.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, so I had you pick from a small list of monster-like races, so that like your characters were as kids were dressed as those things.
Yeah.
And then eventually got cursed and turned into those things. And then the rest of the adventure took place as those things.
My character had a pet dog, which then became a wolf.
Right.
Like because I was a ranger, so my wolf companion was my pet dog.
Oh yeah, Thwip and Buff.
Because I was a Kenku, so I couldn't talk, but I could mimic sounds.
Right.
So my character's name was the sound a bow makes. His dog was the sound that a dog makes when they bark. And then I think that we've mentioned this on the show before, but whenever I would talk in quotes other people had said earlier in the session. I like wrote down every time things were said in character. So that was a lot of fun. But because we were kids, it was a slightly different approach than if we were adults. We had to think of things like, whoa, we're not familiar with all of this. We're just little kids.
Right. Although I like the idea that like your character as the kid was just that kid that just that copies at what everybody else says.
Yeah.
Like it's just the kid that just like he just mocks everybody. He just copies
always doing impressions of everybody else.
So so yeah, like, and I didn't do a super great job of it, but like I wanted it to be like you have to like try and like convince people like that you were, that you're actually a bunch of kids or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it could be, I don't know, it sounds really cool and interesting, but I don't know. It's definitely kind of difficult. 'Cause like, it's difficult to wrap your head around if the stats are the same.
Well, yeah. So the stats are something that I want to talk about. And of course it's going to depend on what RPG you're playing. Like if you're playing D&D, it's going to go one way. If you're playing some other game, it's going to go a different way. I think that probably the best way to deal with it is have the players just use whatever stats the game calls for. I always try to discourage people from trying to make a new game out of a game.
Right.
So like in D&D, I don't recommend trying to make up a bunch of new classes for children characters.
Right.
Don't do that. Go ahead and make characters, whatever class, whatever race, whatever. But then, as the dungeon master or the whoever's running the game, try and make the challenges bigger. So if the players were fighting a minotaur and the players are supposed to be children and the minotaur is an actual minotaur, I would go as far as to say, don't use the stats for a minotaur. If you're going to use stats, use the stats for like a giant. And then describe the things that the players are trying to do as being like less effective. And then, so try and make the players are just the baseline. And then everything else is just bigger and more powerful. So that it's not that, oh, you feel weak because you're a little kid. It's that you feel normal. Everything else is just so much bigger and so much stronger than you that you feel weak by comparison.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, if you're playing a game with a more rules light rule set, like if something in like the terrible RPG, you know, play the game however. That's not, you're not going to need to do any of this with that because there's so few rules to begin with. But if you're using a rules heavy game like D&D, I think that the players should just make characters the way you make characters.
Yeah.
And then just upscale everything else. And really, I think most of the challenges, because you probably don't want to just kill some kids in this game you're playing. If it is a beholder, like you mentioned earlier, have the challenge be, it's not that you're going to kill the beholder or even confront the beholder. Your goal is to get away from the beholder or sneak past the beholder. Kind of like bringing it around. We were talking about Dead by Daylight early on. It's not that you're going to be fighting against the killer. The killer is basically this unkillable thing.
Yeah.
Your abilities are going to be based around evading and hiding.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I feel like in not all cases, but in a lot of cases when like, if like an evil villain or something like that comes across a bunch of kids, they're not going to take them as seriously.
Sure.
And I mean, yes, there are evil things that will want to harm kids and kill them.
Of course.
You know, monsters and whatnot, you know, trolls got to eat. Whatever.
I guess. Yeah.
I don't know. But like in a lot of cases you could say like, okay, like they're not necessarily going to get killed.
Okay.
But they might get captured or something like that.
Sure.
So like, you know, a lot of adventures start off like, oh, there's kidnappings.
Yeah.
You know, like some kids went missing. The adventurers got to go, you know, investigate it, figure it out. Oh, it turns out they were, you know, kidnapped by some orcs in a cave somewhere or something like that. You know, the adventure could be you are those kids in that cave trying to escape.
Yeah.
You know, and like you're not in any real threat of being killed necessarily unless you put yourself in further harm.
Sure.
But like the idea is to like, you know, find a way out. And like statistically you are much less strong than, you know, like compared to the orc, you're much less strong than the adventurer would be.
Yeah.
Than the normal adventurer would be. So like you don't have what it takes to take down the orcs.
Yeah.
But you can, you know, still try to escape, just try to like pick locks and such like that. So it's like, yeah, like you said, like more of an escape than it is a normal encounter.
Sure. And if you do want the goal to be defeat the orc or kill the beholder or whatever, then have it not be that the players are going to confront it directly, but that they have to start a sequence of events that will lead to it being defeated.
Sure.
So like they set a trap and a net falls on the orc and catches the orc so the kids can escape. Or they, I don't know, set up like a mirror so the beholder, I don't know, shoots a mirror and it zaps back and whatever.
Something like that.
Like something like that instead of just a straight up fight.
Right. Yeah. Some sort of like Scooby-Doo situation where like they're not just like going to go over and like hit the masked villain. They set up some elaborate trap that Freddy came up with. You know, it's like okay, I got a plan, but we're going to need a skateboard, some rope, and a copy of TV Guide. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're probably, if you're making a game that is all the players are children or adolescents, you're probably going for, like I said earlier, a specific kind of tone, like a theme of powerlessness, a theme of weakness or vulnerability. So in that sense, try not to make the challenges be direct confrontations, you know, because then that kind of goes right against, unless it is explicitly a confrontation with something really small, like maybe fighting off a rat or something might be a worthwhile challenge for something like that. Or like, oh, that spider is far too big. We have to do something about that spider. You know, but then when you encounter the actual giant spider, then it's about getting away and so on.
This makes me think there's like a campaign setting, or it might even be just a whole nother tabletop game altogether. I feel like I've seen some stuff for it, like a Kickstarter or something, but it's you play as like woodland critters.
Okay.
I feel like, so like you're you know, like the scale of everything is much smaller because you're playing as like field mice and songbirds.
Oh,
and stuff
like Mouse Guard.
Maybe.
I know Mouse Guard is like a fantasy setting where they're all mice.
Sure.
Like the Redwall series of books is like that, where all the characters are rodents and such, and so everything is like smaller.
Whenever I think of stuff like that, I think of like the what is it called? The Secret of Nim?
Well, yeah, that I believe that was.
Is that part of?
If I'm not mistaken, that is part of the Redwall.
Okay, yeah,
universe.
Yeah. So like, and I remember watching that movie as a kid and loving that one.
Mm-hmm. I might actually be wrong about that. Whether that is anyway. When I was a kid, I was under the assumption that was part of the same universe.
I mean, similar enough that
Yeah, similar enough, definitely.
So like like thinking of things like playing stuff at a smaller scale, like because when you were talking about the Minotaur, but play it like you're against a giant, it's like yeah, you could just make it so like everybody's small sized, because you're children or something like that. But
I suppose.
I think your way is better is like instead of instead of giving it just regular Minotaur stats, you change it so it's statistically like a giant.
Because like if playing as children is going to have, if you're going to be just as effective fighting a Minotaur as playing as an adult, then why are you in playing as kids?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a flavor thing or something like that.
It could be the kids are fighting against an orc, and that orc has the stats of a Minotaur.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's a close enough analog.
Yeah, you're giving things more, like, it's flavor-wise, it's lower level. So, like, yeah, orcs and goblins, whatever. Yeah. Like, that's, like, that's, pretty common for, like, the first few levels of adventures.
Mm-hmm.
But, so everything is, everything looks lower level, but then you're bumping them up in difficulty. So, like, because, like, to a kid, an orc might as well be a giant. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, we're screwed. There's nothing we can do here.
He's going to grind my bones to make his bread.
Exactly. So, like, but, like, to an adventurer, it's like an orc is like, oh, an orc is just, a slightly bigger, hairier me.
Yeah.
I can take it, Yeah, I kind of like that idea. It's like making things that are, like, to a normal adventure that seem like sort of mundane and like, okay, this will be a fight, but is it going to be a challenge? I don't know.
Sure.
But, like, to a kid, it's like, okay, this is gonna be the hardest thing I've ever done. Like,
yeah. I like the idea of taking something that to an adventurer would be no challenge whatsoever, like climbing up a cliff or jumping across a pit or something, and then making that like the entire adventure revolves around how are we going to get across this pit.
No, I can't reach the door handle. It's like, it's just a really big set of doors that kids can't open. They just can't do it.
All right, we need the key, but it's in that drawer, and the drawer has one of those things you can't pull it all the way out.
Got
a little child lock on it. Okay, there's this medicine, but it's in this bottle, and we can't get this bottle open.
The cap is so weird.
We have to find the sage that lives on the hill and get him to open this bottle.
I just keep turning it and turning it and turning it, and it won't open.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I'm on board. Yeah.
Okay, I think there's a lot of potential with this. As far as actual specific advice we can give, I mean, it's going to depend on what game you're playing, what system, and what you're going for.
Yeah.
I recommend trying to make the challenges seem bigger and more like all encompassing, like bigger and more inscrutable. Like you can't. There's no way that you can fight that Minotaur because you're just a little kid. Mm-hmm. You can only try to escape.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for this week. I think our episodes have been going a bit long, so I think we'll skip ahead to social media questions. So last week's social media question was, has anything in your game ever been inspired by a real world place or event? If so, what happened? I think that we talked with Jason about. There was two things. He ran an adventure that was set in our high school.
Right, yeah.
For better and for worse.
Yep.
And then also when I got married, he ran a D&D session about me getting married, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd say those two are the best examples in my experience too. Like, I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything else. But yeah, I do remember playing in the high school, and then I do remember the bachelor party thing.
I also think I did make an adventure once that was set it was a very small adventure, but it was set in my parents' house. I don't know if anybody noticed though. It was when we were in high school, but I don't even know if you guys had been to my parents' house more than once or twice. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I'm not even sure if I've ever been to your parents' house.
I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, so not really much myself, but Jay did have a couple of those, which I thought were some great examples.
Yeah.
So we got a few responses on Facebook and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few good examples and a cautionary tale as well.
Definitely. So on Facebook, Adam B says, yes, I currently have a city that's separated from the kingdom under false pretenses led by a blonde idiot.
No idea what that's about.
Well, yeah, I wonder what that's in reference to. On Reddit, we got a couple. Pruno says, my homebrew setting was magical Detroit. They fought juggalos and an aboleth in a sunken Fitzgerald, met Henry Ford, and potions were Faygo flavors. It was fun because all the players were from there and thus something to ground the high fantasy elements, like Grosse Pointe being a flowing island.
Oh, nice.
Well, double thumbs up from me.
Yeah.
That's a good inspiration there. I mean, hey, let's be honest. Faygo is already magical potions.
Right, yeah.
You get magical powers from drinking Faygo. It's great. And then 00 Jiminy Cricket says, my players have interesting tastes like bird noticing.
What?
Is bird noticing different than bird watching?
Yeah, it was.
I feel like it is a less committal version of bird watching. Anyway,
I won't watch birds, but I notice them.
A slight fascination with the Latin science names for things and everyone's satirical love of middle management. Names of places and NPCs and their personalities are usually built around those things, like Buffalustrum, a swamp village named after frogs, and a semi-baddie, Josie, who was actually a manager with a larger crime organization. Josie was a reliable magic-wielding badass, but the promotion to leader changed her and her crew, direct reports, lost motivation for the cause. Well, there you go. None on Twitter. And over on social media, I think we got a few. The Beverage Tea says, a real-world place. I reskinned Lost Mines of Phandelver to take place in a small island among the Moonshae. The island was based on Oahu, and some of the flavor elements were based on Hawaiian history. The many arrow orcs were reskinned as raiders who landed and attacked in a pattern like King Kamehameha I. Phandalin was based on late 19th century Chinatown, including the devastating fire. The fire in-game was caused by a Sahuagin sorceress casting fireball, a la Glassstaff. Various locations were based on landmarks around the island, and I would share current and archived photos and maps with my players. It was a fun way for me to share about where I live and add a little Hawaiian history to my players, who all live on the mainland U.S.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anything, I mean, we joked about the Detroit one earlier, but like anything that is your way of showing everybody else what your home is like, I think is a really cool way to use something like D&D.
Yeah, for sure. And like also when, just in general, when you're using like real life references and stuff like that, like showing pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The Beverage Tea did put up a picture of a location, I think in Hawaii by where they live.
So like you just like even being able to like use real life, like historical figures and stuff like that, like just even just for like names of NPCs and stuff is very handy.
Sure. And I mean, heck, there's so much in like European history that would make great campaigns for D&D and such. And I'm sure it's not even just European history. I'm sure every country, but
right. I mean, plenty of like fantasy stories and stuff are based on like real world events and things like that.
Yeah.
Like it's like part of Game of Thrones was the War of the Roses and things like that.
Sure. So. The game Final Fantasy Tactics, the plot of that is very, very similar to was it the War of the Roses? Some English war that went on in the Middle Ages.
I do remember being like more enthralled with that game too. I was just like I usually skip through dialogue.
Sure.
But I was like, there's a lot of weird stuff going on. This is interesting.
Yeah. Floofy Shoob says, most of my Heroes Unlimited and Dead Rain campaigns happened in modern Earth using Google Maps. The most exotic we ever got was the little Eskimo village in Alaska that sits right across from Russia. Kayak adventurers to the two little islands in between, a trip around the coast to visit the Yak and Yeti, which turns out we also had in Denver at the time. to get a yak burger, or if one was more adventurous, a Yeti burger, or if one was more vegan inclined, the Tofu Yeti burger. We had zombies at Mile High Stadium. We had zombies take Las Vegas. Had a Wolfen Quatoria crash land a coalition scarab in modern-day Lake Michigan, which another party later discovered. I understood some of those words. had a mutant alien whose arrival on Earth was the Tunguska Event.
Oh.
If you're familiar with that. One of my superhero immortals was Doc Holliday. So the Tunguska Event, for anybody who is not familiar, I think in like the early 1900s, there was some sort of gigantic explosion in this part of Russia.
Oh.
There are pretty strong theories as to what it was. Because this was like before, this was before
Is this where
airplanes.
It's like all like the trees and stuff are flattened and things like that?
Everything in like, you can see exactly where it happened because of all the trees got knocked down in like a.
So there wasn't a crater, but there was like an explosion.
Right. There might have been a crater, but
if I'm thinking of the right thing, it's basically like the theory is that it was a meteor, but the meteor like exploded
somewhere above the ground. Yeah.
Right. Before it made contact with the surface, it exploded because like depending on the angle, velocity, and mass and density of a meteor, like it can basically vaporize by hitting the atmosphere before it even hits the surface of the planet.
Right. So like I said, I think scientists are pretty sure what happened there, but for a long time at least.
Right. It was like, what?
There were theories like, a natural nuclear reactor exploded, like some sort of a nuclear reaction that just happened naturally, just spontaneously exploded, or aliens, or, whatever. Yeah. Lots and lots of theories.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, that's really cool. Like these, putting the Bermuda Triangle or, stuff like that, like, wonders of the world types of things, but putting that into a D&D like context. That's really cool.
Yeah. And then there was a bit of discussion around some of the things posted on the Discord, but I think that's all of the just the actual submissions.
Cool.
One thing I just realized, because I asked about, the question was, it was not just events, but also locations. Mm-hmm. And when I was asking the question, I think I had in mind, like, in the game Dark Souls, a lot of the locations in there are based on real life, like temples and such. Like the city of Anne Orlando is like very strongly inspired by some like Eastern European cathedral or something like that.
Yeah.
And there was something I used. I first did it for a story I was writing, but I also played it out in an actual game that was based on that story. But I had a character inherit a mansion that I took the map of the mansion from. There's a French mansion that I thought looked really cool. Mm-hmm. So I based part of a D&D adventure around exploring this abandoned mansion.
Nice.
So, and again, it was a real place, and I had real pictures of it and everything. So, so I think those are all the responses to that question. So that was last week's social media question. Next week's question is, if you had to make a new class for a role-playing game, probably D&D, but if you had to make a new class, one that doesn't already exist, what class would you make and how would you do it? And of course, try and keep your responses brief.
Right.
So like something that is not already done.
Sure.
How would you do it?
In I know in Pathfinder there's like a summoner class.
Okay. Oh, I love the summoner class in Pathfinder.
So I feel like they're like in D&D there's like this, there's some summoning like spells and stuff like that. But I feel like there could be more. At least in 5th edition, I feel like there's not as many like pet focused classes. Like even the ranger doesn't like normally have an animal companion.
Yeah, it's just one of the archetypes.
And even then it's like it's less traditional, I feel like in that. It's like it's not it's not independent or anything. I don't know, like I remember in 3rd edition there through several like prestige classes and stuff like that, there were like ways to get like, you can basically have like a swarm of animal companions of
sure.
Low CR obviously, but like at a certain point you basically, like I tried to make a character who controlled a swarm of rats.
Yeah.
And like I was like, that'd be really cool. So I don't know.
I know the 5th edition druid, there is an archetype that lets you get a whole bunch of animal companions, but again, it's not the class. That's just one archetype for that class. I've always been disappointed that D&D has not had a warlock that has a demon pet. Like even back in 4th edition, where everybody talked about how it's just an MMO made into a role playing game.
Right.
Like, I was always confused as to why they never made a warlock that had a demon pet. They made a ranger that had a pet, like the World of Warcraft ranger, but they never did that with the warlock.
Sure.
And that's why I love the summoner so much, because I could use it to make a World of Warcraft warlock. Because I love that class.
Right, because it's, you know, it's not just about the character, it's about, you know, it's about the demon as well. Like you can build your character, you know, to make the demon more powerful, basically. Yeah. So I don't like, like a summoner type class would be kind of neat. I feel like.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And like, you could argue that it's just as simple as making it an archetype of like a wizard or a warlock or something. But I don't know, like it's more fun to imagine, you know, if that was like the core class, like how many different ways you can go about it. Like, you know, maybe one of the archetypes is like, you know, you just make your summon really, really beefy and strong, or it's like maybe another one of the archetypes is you can like possess your summon or something like that. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I would say, like, because I like the idea of a summoner. I also, this is going to sound real weird, but I wish that there were a D&D class that was the average Joe or something.
Sure.
Like if there was a way that you can make a character that would be balanced with other player classes, but have the flavor be that your character, there's nothing special about them. Maybe they're very lucky, and so they just always like luck into everything that happens to them or something. I like the idea of being like, I shouldn't be out here, guys.
What's going on? Yeah.
Right. There's in the Adventure Zone, they've been doing I think the game is called Monster of the Week, which is it's part of Powered by the Apocalypse, I think is the core system. But there's a class in that where you're an average Joe. There is nothing special about you. In fact, all of the powers that they get are based around like, I am completely unassuming. Nobody's ever going to think that I'm on an adventure.
Right.
So people are more likely to listen to me. Or if I put myself in harm's way, I can get other people out of there because, you know, I'm not a big hero. I'm just like, get out of here. I'll stay back or whatever. So I like that idea for a class. Like, no, you're just a normal dude, you know.
Well, I could definitely see that. You could do you could flavor a character that way for sure.
And heck, you could even use that in keeping with the discussion earlier. If you were going to make a character or a group of characters that were children, then some sort of a class that would, you know, maybe work for something like that.
Yeah. So like things like the Lucky Feet and like anything that lets you like re-roll dice and stuff like that, where you're just it's sort of like stuff just happens around me. What's going on? Like,
or like abilities that go off without the character's knowledge of it happening. You know,
because like more like reaction spells, like abilities that are reaction, are reactions and stuff like that. You can play it off as like, you know, the character doesn't know they're happening because they're just, it's like a, you know. It's just like an instinctive reaction, or it's something that's beyond their control. Like, you know,
and heck, maybe you could even do that with a warlock and have it be that their patron is the one who's actually shooting that eldritch blast. The character is just like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah. What's going on? You know, things like the shield spell, where it's a reaction that gives you bonus, you know, defense. It's like, you're just some putz, you know, like sit in the middle of a battle and like things are getting shot at you and you're like, I don't know what's going on. What do I do? And then like you get hit, but that shield spell goes off and you barely get, you know, miss getting hit. You're like, well, I don't know what happened, but I'm alive.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our questions for this week. So before we close out, let's wind down a little bit. Let's take a deep breath.
Sorry.
I noticed you start to breathe in before I said.
Yeah.
So
I was like,
I have that problem sometimes on the show. So let's remember those who have come before us. Maybe the children who
oh no,
grew up to be adventurers and then died so that we may have a better place to live. I don't know where I'm going with this. As we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted on Reddit by Reddit user 10 Dead Dogs.
Wow.
I'm not a fan of that username, but I'll take it.
Why?
This is a short one. 10 Dead Dogs said, all in unison, I entered melee to defend my wife's druid from a 2-on-1 attack. Immediately after my turn, she was charmed by a hag and critted me into oblivion.
Oh no.
That's gratitude for you.
That's that's like a tragic poetic sort of little thing there. Oh, that's terrible and kind of cool.
So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of 10 Dead Dogs' character who reminds us never trust anyone ever.
Oh no.
Clink. Well, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes. Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
I don't want to end this show.
go to your room.
Aww.